Hey guys, it's Korson Schmidt. I'd like to welcome you back to the Kortex Media Podcast, where we navigate the fast-paced world of automotive and more. Here today, I have a special guest, Rob Fournier from the Fournier Auto Group. Rob, whose passion from the automotive industry began long before his professional journey. Sparked by a childhood fascination with cars and collecting Mercedes brochures, Rob's extensive hands-on experience spans from multiple facets of the industry, including sales, insurance, warranties, parts, and repairs, giving him the unique ability to anticipate challenges. With nearly 2 decades of experience in the automotive world, starting from 2003, Rob brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to our conversation today. It's great to have you on, Rob.
Thanks, Korson. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So we're gonna start off talking about your background. So I kind of touched on your background a little bit, but what drove you to join the automotive industry?
I see what you did there. I always liked cars. I grew up, playing with cars, and I think was just fascinated by I don't know how you would describe it. They're just remarkable. You take a whole bunch of metal, you can get it flying down the highway at 200 miles an hour. It's kind of impressive when you really think about what it is. And so I was drawn to it, and I had been working with my parents' business that had kind of worked around the auto industry and so in 2003 is when I decided to start selling cars. And I did that for a number of years at a number of different dealerships in a number of different cities and provinces. And it was definitely more challenging than I anticipated.
Selling cars? Was that started in 2003, so that was the first step that got you into the automotive industry, was selling cars?
Yeah, I think my first actual experience in the auto industry was in Ontario in high school, working in an insurance office selling car insurance. So I was responsible for selling or providing people with the registrations, the documents, and I would do account reconciliation. And so that was, I guess, my first technical at 16, working in an insurance agent, selling insurance to people for their vehicles.
That's awesome. That's where it all started off for you, eh? But you've built an impressive career in the automotive industry. But I want to explore more about your journey that led you to now the Fournier Auto Group. So what were some of the key roles and experiences that you had before starting that helped you gain such an extensive knowledge in the field?
I think my curiosity. I've always been a very curious person. I was actually this last year diagnosed with ADHD and a level of brilliance. And I actually, up until this point, had thought that I was actually slow. And when I realized that my mind actually works very quickly, and it's very interested, it's very curious. And so I love to learn through experience, through questions, through knowledge. I'm okay with saying I don't know in this world of, that everybody has to know everything. I'm perfectly okay with being, I have no idea, but please teach me, I want to learn. And so I find that curiosity, starting at a young age, disassembling. It started off with disassembling electronics at a young age. Working with my parents' business, I would solder circuitry and was always fascinated with how does a television work? How does electricity, how does 110 volts turn into an image and sound through diodes and resistors and capacitors? I just was fascinated by it. And so cars are just a bigger device. And don't get me on planes, so there was just this curiosity. So I thought, okay, selling cars would be a neat way to, get into it. And it was a little more, looking back, it was definitely a struggle for me. I didn't do very well selling cars, truth be told. It's definitely a very emotional game. It requires you to be focused and present. And I was a little overly emotional, maybe, easily taken out. And so what kind of looked like a bit of an issue at the time was good in that I did work at different dealerships. And so by doing that, it allowed me to really understand that a lot of my experience was not just one dealership, but it's just industry specific and how it operates. And so by working in these different industries, I was really able just to kind of pull together an understanding that I don't know that a lot of people have, because most people, sell parts for a living. They stay doing that for the majority of their life. I'm just absorbing all the information as I go, and it's kind of it's interesting, and the knowledge that I've built, and I've been looking at what would make a difference for people dealing with cars, because there's the industry that obviously has its interests, and then there's the consumer that has different interests than dealerships. And so I've been looking at how do you bridge that gap, and that's where the Fournier Auto Group comes into play, is there's a gap. The interests of both sides are different. One does it professionally every day. The other does it maybe every 5 to 10 years. And so there's definitely an inequity in how that works itself out. And so the Fournier Auto Group looks to be a middle ground of connecting people with the information they need, supporting the industry and generating revenue. But I think it's safe to say that the future of our planet is changing. How we do business is changing. The auto industry is changing. And so the Fournier Auto Group is that, I see as that hub that will be between the consumer and the suppliers and the manufacturers over the years. Does that answer your question?
That's great. We'll get more into what's changing in the industry in a little bit. But can you speak a little bit more about the beginning of Fournier Auto Group and kind of your inspiration behind that? So you kind of touched on it, but what was like the big inspiration rather than trying to help consumers?
I loved helping people buy cars because I found it, as we were talking before, it's like a car they're fantastic. They could be a fashion statement. There's definitely like a self-expression that comes with it. And so I was excited about that. But what I found is that consumers come in preparing for battle. It's kind of how I put it, right? Some people love the game. Like, don't get me wrong. Some people love the dynamic of the auto industry and buying cars and selling them. Some people just are not stoked at all about it. And that's who we look to provide something to. And so at the time I was selling car parts for an OEM company. They were selling OEM parts, aftermarket parts, Brembo, Bilstein, like we did all these. It was actually a company in Richmond that does performance Audi, Volkswagen modifications.
Oh yeah.
And so I was doing that, and somebody had asked me if I could help them buy a vehicle. And I'd never done it before. I was like, that could be interesting. And so I ended up helping them buy, it was a Ford Expedition. And I really enjoyed it. I was like, wow, because I wasn't selling any car, they could be honest with me. They could tell me things that they would never tell a person, because in reality, if you disclose everything, it can kind of shoot somebody in the foot. It can be used against them. Whereas we removed the concern, or how I like to put it is like the worry that I was going to try and make them do something. And I saw that was what was missing in the auto industry, is a place where there's no agenda. I'm simply here to serve. I have a passion for cars. I have a knowledge. I love to learn, and we designed it so that we have no financial incentive. We don't get payments from dealerships. We get paid by the consumer, and we do the job for them. And then when it's complete, and there's nothing else. And so I find that dynamic really allows people to just take a breath. We could sit at their kitchen table and talk, like be under their rules, if you will, and figure out what they wanted. And people really enjoyed it. The challenge with it is that it was very time consuming. I would spend sometimes 30 hours on one car. And I think at the last we were charging about $800, $850 to do this service. But it was very time consuming. And what I found is that most people don't represent their cars accurately, either out of not knowing. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, to assume that they just didn't know. I assume there's probably some hidden kind of like, nefariousness that was occurring, but you just, you talk to somebody about a car, you go look at it, and then next thing you know, it wasn't, the headlight is dangling out of it. And it's like, well, you said there was no damage. You said there was no dents, there was no rust, but your headlight is, like, I can move it. Oh, I didn't notice that before. And so there was a lot of that. And so by doing that experience, that 30 hours over a number of years, I did that for quite a few years, it gave me an experience that most people don't have. And I understand why, because it didn't generate a huge amount of money. But it was a fantastic experience, to the point where legal counsel, so I have been retained for the last 12 years, I've been doing a lot of litigation. And so lawyers often need an expert when it comes to a vehicle. In a car accident, in a dispute, they need somebody that can provide them with knowledge, with data. And at the time, when I discovered this, they were just going on Craigslist. They would call up, an ad, and I was like, wow, like our legal system is relying on these very superficial tools to quantify, in the legal world, so put a number to the damages. And I saw it as a huge opportunity. So I created what's called an independent vehicle examiner, or an IVE. In the legal world, there's something called an independent medical examiner. And so there are people that quantify economical loss or medical issues after a car accident. And so we created this IVE specifically for the legal industry. And that's mostly who we serve today, is lawyers that are needing somebody to provide expertise. So it's evolved over the years. And the future of it I see as an online platform that will make this process simpler for everybody.
Okay, that's so. When I looked into the company, I thought you guys were more helping people kind of buy and sell cars, but now you're kind of involved into more the legal side of things and kind of more the insurance side of things as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of ebbed and flowed over time. So in British Columbia, you need a license to help people buy and sell cars. You didn't originally, but they've implemented a broker agent license. So to do what I was originally doing, I would need the licensing, and there's everything that goes with that. And so I chose not to pursue that. And so right now we're not really helping people. Like if somebody calls me and says, hey, I need a price on a vehicle, I can appraise cars. I just can't be involved in the transaction. So so that's why we've evolved to this litigation. So today I do a lot of reports for insurance companies or lawyers or people having a challenge with an insurance company. I've definitely started doing a lot more class action lawsuits, expert evidence. And where we provide that kind of data or information to law firms looking at pursuing class action lawsuits against organizations. So that's mainly kind of what
interesting.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Because you don't really hear that side of automotive to begin with, like especially the legal side of things. Say someone gets in an accident, usually you take it to your repair shop and they're the ones doing the estimations and everything, but you're like the certified professional to do it.
Yeah.
And is there any other companies in the area that do the same thing, or are you guys kind of the first group that kind of started everything off?
There are a number of companies that do similar things with vehicle appraisals. So they'll do, total loss. If you're unhappy, you can hire them as a third party, and they do appraisals. And then they use that with you to challenge your insurance company. They also do material damage estimation. So let's say your car is damaged and then it's fixed and you're unhappy with the repair. They can do an estimate of what it would cost to actually properly repair it. And then that can be used in court to make sure that it's been done properly. Our company does not currently offer that because I don't have that expertise, but it's something that we will expand as we go to, because I see it as such a valuable thing. Like sometimes you just need a person that knows beyond what you do and what you're dealing with, and we look to be that. The idea with an IVE is that ideally, you're a Mark. We were talking about it. You're a Volkswagen guy. I'm a Volkswagen guy, and so if somebody's buying a Volkswagen, I know the things to look for just through my own trial and error, failure. Hey, don't do this, do that. And so the idea is that independent vehicle examiners would be people like you and I that have spent years, our lifetime, loving a car, and that knowledge is so valuable. And so we would look to connect them with customers that are like, hey, I'm dealing with 1956 Corvair, right? I'm having an issue with this. Hey, here's our IVE that has that expertise, and they have the schematics and the knowledge. And imagine having access to that kind of a database. Mm-hmm. If you look at what exists today, is you would have to call a parts department, or you'd have to call a company that's selling something. So they're not necessarily getting paid to give you free advice. They're getting paid to sell stuff, which is fine, right? But so our structure is, you now have me. You've paid for my time. What do you need? And that I find makes a huge difference for people.
Definitely. And do you, so say with the 1960s Corvair that you were just giving the example of, do you kind of connect and network with people that know? Because we are Volkswagen guys, so to say. I'm guessing you have a lot more knowledge in tons of other vehicles, but do you have access to people in your network that are specific to certain vehicles as well that you will send the consumer to get some knowledge about? Or is it
so
kind
right
of
now
mostly just through you?
Yeah, like right now it comes from me because it's just me currently in this organization. Yeah. We've been kind of hiding out in the background, learning and understanding of what is needed and wanted. And so we're at the point now where we're ready to be like, I think the world is ready for this. People want clarity and peace of mind and, just the data so they can make their own decision. And so there's a world of tools that I've amassed over the years that are super helpful in different situations. That's the thing, is everybody's situation is so different but I've just built up a confidence, if you will, as well, that if I don't know, I can figure it out. And that makes a difference for people that have no idea. Like I think when that kind of triggered for me, it was I helped a woman buy a car, and she picked it up and went through the process, and we went to go get gas, and she's like, how do you put gas in it? And she had
Really?
never put gas in an automobile ever in her life.
Wow.
And what that peaked for me is that everybody has such varying ranges of knowledge. There's an assumption
Especially in
that-
these times now, it's very ranged.
Totally. And so we look to meet people where they are. If you're an expert, there's a good chance. I mean, there are people that know way more about cars than I do. I'm clear about that. I don't pretend. I feel like the best knowledge is getting your hands in there, tearing an engine out. Like you, I don't know if you did did you do the turbocharger in your VR6?
I did turbo my VR, yeah.
Yeah, so there's stuff that you learned, right? That just by taking it apart, putting your hands on it, that you just, the knowledge. And so I'm clear that I have not done that with a lot of vehicles, but there are a lot of people that have. And I would probably love to share that freely, but we look to get them paid to do it. So now you're getting paid to share your passion. So that's the vision of what we're looking to do. So yeah.
So you're just pulling the automotive industry all together at one. You're making the mechanics happy, you're making the consumer happy, and you're making it happy, being the middleman, bringing everything together.
Yeah. And we look to do it through technology, through a platform, a digital platform, through 3D imagery. Yeah, the idea is that you would have like a baseball card, but a 3D imagery of all your vehicles. Imagine you had like a 3D imagery of all the cars you ever owned, and you could just look at them, and you could just kind of spin them around. And I'd love to, if I could do a screen share, I could show you a neat visual. There's a company called Polycam that does 3D imaging through LiDAR, and they capture vehicles beautifully, and it's super neat to just have that car. I wish I had one of my Mark II, but I do not. But
darn, you'll have to find it again. You know who sold it. You'll have to find them and get that Mark II back.
I guess we didn't tell you. The 92 Jetta Coupe with ATS cups and for Carlos, that's what we're talking about. I regret having sold that car. I feel like everybody has a car they regret having let go. Definitely.
Everyone's got to. I have one question. When did you establish the Fournier Group?
It's evolved. The company itself, like the current corporate structure, or I believe it's in 2008 when we incorporated. I've had multiple businesses before that. I actually own the copyright to the Car Whisperers in Canada.
Oh, really?
Or the trademark to it. I own the trademark to the Car Whisperers Automotive. So that was an organization that I had, and I did wind it down. And so then we started the Fournier Auto Group. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
It's been around, but evolved over the years.
Evolved into what you're going to turn it into, and that's super exciting. Can you share a little bit more about your role and how it fits into the bigger picture at the moment of Fournier, and what a typical day looks like for you?
What a typical day looks like for me?
Yeah.
Well, I run 3 businesses right now, so it's very, and I have 2 young daughters. So a typical day is I work from home for the most part, and being around my kids is absolute priority. Again, because I've listened to a lot of older people, and most older men regret having worked as hard as they did and missed out on their childhood, their kids' children. Not everybody, but you could see a consistency. So I spend a lot of time with my kids. I get them to school every day, make them lunches here at the end of the day. And once they've gone, it's working on reports mostly. So researching vehicle values, preparing reports for lawyers, giving reports to, helping people navigate without escalation. We always try and you can escalate situations, like especially with insurance. You can deal with your adjuster, and then there's arbitration. Every level requires more expense. So we try our best to mitigate and kind of keep it at the least expensive. The fact that people have to pay money to deal with their own insurance company already is a bit of a mind boggler for most people. So we try and make it as reasonable as possible. So we kind of dance between those 2 things. And as I mentioned, I have 2 other businesses that I fill in the gaps. So I'm a fairly busy guy.
Sounds like a busy day. And what are the other 2 businesses, if I don't mind asking?
One of them is my parents' time clock business. So I grew up fixing punch clocks, the old school mechanical clocks. People use them. It's evolved into biometric facial reader systems now. So I I do sales of that, but then also implementation, installation into server environments of these biometric devices, and then training. And so that's another part. In addition to mechanically repairing the clocks, the old clocks. There's some old mechanical clocks people still use. Some of them are 40 years old.
I work as a truck and coach technician at the moment while I'm doing Kortex Media, and we still have the mechanical punch clock. Put your time card in, clunk, away you go.
It's exactly, and we do it for job costing. This is where I kind of got connected to the auto industry earlier on, because a lot of businesses, a lot of dealers at the time used time clocks for job costing with the old 3-part sticky time ticket.
That's what we have, yeah.
Yeah, so we sell the time tickets. I service the time clocks. We sell them. I've been fixing those since, I was like 6 years old. So I guess the late 80s.
Awesome.
And then the last business, it was created when my father passed away in 2019, and it's in the medical fields. And it's exactly in line with this business, the Fournier Auto Group. It's a similar model in that it became very apparent there was no one person caring for my father when he was quite sick. And there was a point where a doctor had told us that he was dying, and I had gone to him, and he wasn't happy that I had said it. I could see now he was just trying to protect my mom. And so we met with his cardiologist, and he said, your father is fine. The ER room is exaggerating. And he died a month later. And I believe the cardiologist failed to realize his kidneys were failing, and then all the subsequent kind of dialysis, massive brain injury. And so it was very apparent. My experience was powerlessness, just listening, a lot of jargon, a lot of people saying inconsistency things. And so Medfolio looks to bring what I'm creating in the auto fields into the medical field. And the Fournier Auto Group is the testing ground. Because if we make a mistake with cars, it's a money situation. It just might cost us money. Whereas in health, obviously people's lives are on the line. And so that one,
Definitely.
So those are the businesses.
That's amazing. You are quite the busy guy. That definitely makes a busy day. But that kind of leads me into the next one. With you being such a heavy entrepreneur, taking on 3 companies, soon to be 3 companies at once, who's your biggest role model in your entrepreneurial journey?
There's a couple people that I've met over the years. Are you talking about? My dad obviously was one, because he had always owned businesses, and he had taught me the skill of just hard work. When I was after high school, I actually did door-to-door sales for his company in the interior of British Columbia, and I would knock on about 90 doors a day, 80 to 90 doors, just doing cold calling, servicing, introducing. That skill, I hated it at the time. Friggin' hated it. But now I look back, and it was the best Karate Kid kind of training I ever could have gotten. Because now I can just call somebody and be like, no. They're like, okay, great, have a good day. There's nothing going on. It's happened so much. People say no or get upset. It's like, fair enough. I'm sorry that you're having such a poor day, but move on. So he was definitely a role model. There's a couple lawyers that I've dealt with that seem to have balanced great success, but with health and humility. And so Tony Vecchio is a lawyer that is in Vancouver here, and I've become friends with him. He's my inspiration because he has this organization that does great work, but he's been able to stay humble. And so to me that's inspiration. Yeah.
We all need a role model to look up to in our entrepreneurial journey, and a lot of us starts off with someone close we know, but then there's always that one mentor that we seem to connect with really well that kind of pushes us further in the direction of entrepreneurial, and it's just it makes a big difference in everyone's life.
Totally.
That's amazing. So I'm going to move on to more industry trends now.
Sure.
So with automotive being such a fast-paced world, and it's always changing from EV to AI to self-driving cars, making vehicles mission compliant, being such an experienced individual in the industry, what major shifts are you seeing in the automotive assessment industry right now, and how is it affecting the companies?
I thought about this question before we started this call. I don't have, for me to be able to answer this in a smart way, I would want to have specific data to speak to what you're talking about, and I don't have that. I don't have specific, hey, this is it. I have my my overall view of what's happening, with electric vehicles. We could discuss that because obviously it's a pretty hot topic, right? Electric vehicles. Yep. My concern, having worked in an auto wrecker, because I worked in an auto wrecker, is everything is great when people are selling stuff. You know what I mean? Everybody's best friends, everything's great. But when things go sideways, that's when you really kind of learn, oh, that's the reality. I have very big concerns about how we're dealing with these batteries and these magnets once they die. And I've experienced it a number of times with cars, with Tesla. That's the hot topic these days, Tesla. I've had a couple clients where they buy this $100,000 car, they drive it 300,000 kilometers, and now it needs a battery that's $30,000, and it needs a motor that's $15,000, and it's kind of like a cell phone. You just got to toss it away. And so that is very
happen to it.
Sorry?
And what happens to it after you throw it away? Does it sit in landfill? Is that what's going to happen? Or I'm not too sure what we're going to be seeing in the future. Like when the batteries do die, so you said, I have no idea what we're going to do with them. Is it going to be worth recycling them, or is it going to be, I don't know. I haven't really looked into it, but I think it's definitely something that we should be hearing from the manufacturers themselves, if we can remanufacture the motors and the batteries, or if they're just going to let them sit in landfill, because that's not going to be great for our planet at all. That's not going to help anything to do with our planet. So do you have an opinion on that side of things? What you think we're going to be doing when the batteries do become toast?
I think the challenge is that we live in a capitalist society, which is fine. I have no issue with making money. But the reality is that often people choose money over the right thing. And so that scares me. And I've seen it like time and time again. There's what the right answer, and then there's what makes money. And this is social. It's like a, I don't know if you call it societal, but like a species thing, or, people are just trying to care for themselves. And I don't think that they understand that their decisions, cumulative over billions of people, has huge consequences.
Yeah.
And so the batteries, like I struggle to trust data that I see online, because I get there's always a bias. There's always some manipulation. There's always, pro, against. I like to find myself in the middle, where it's like there's got to be a middle ground where we can kind of deal with this. So I get that, the recycling of the batteries, the last time I had seen this it wasn't cost effective to recycle entirely. And obviously that technology is constantly changing. I've seen a number of companies in Canada that do these battery recyclings. And my only issue is, in the one video that I saw, there was a tote filled with the remnants of the plastics. And when asked where that was going, they wouldn't answer that question. And that's the stuff that, worries me, because one battery was there was a tote, but I've seen anecdotally that we have the equivalent of, was it like 15 Eiffel Towers of car batteries stacked up upon each other coming down the line.
That's crazy.
And that could be, I could maybe say it could be 3, but even if it's just one Eiffel Tower in height of electric batteries coming down the line, it's huge. And what are we doing with it? And so the people that we're relying on to do something with it are the ones that also, they're making money, and it has to be profitable. And I get that it has to be profitable for it to be sustainable. But I have very big concerns about what we're doing with these batteries, and them at the end. And that's just a battery. So, my concern is more of our water, the chemicals leaking into the earth, into our clean water. That's my personal kind of concern, and I think that it's something that we need to be paying attention to. Most people aren't thinking 100 years down the line. Like, I don't mean a lot of people being like, hey, what are we leaving for our children or our children's children? And so I think 100 years down the line, and like, maybe you and I don't need to deal with that stuff, but somebody's going to have to deal with this. And so that's kind of my kind of dire concern about electric batteries, is the motors, the batteries, the batteries specifically, and the chemicals in it. I need to know that that's getting dealt with in a net zero kind of way. No impact.
Yeah, no,
and I would be like, okay, great.
I definitely stand even with you there, because we know what happens with a gas engine. If it sits in a wrecking yard, there can be a little bit of oil that leaks out, but a lot of the time they drain all the engines, they drain all the fluids, and they do it safely. They know they make sure they don't spill. They make sure everything's all out of the engine before they go put it in the wrecking yard, and they know everything's drained. But with a battery, you can't drain the battery, and there is way more corrosive chemicals inside a battery than there is a mechanically driven engine. So I'm with you. I would think there needs to be something figured out that we need to do with the batteries so they don't sit in landfill or don't sit in wrecking yards, and just drain into our earth. I think that's one of the biggest things that we need, that a lot of people are overseeing as well. We don't hear, no one really talks much about it. It's a kind of something that doesn't get much attention, but we need to find a solution sooner than later before we have too many batteries to deal with.
Yeah, and I think the challenge. I think the challenge with that is that most people are surviving. And so thinking about how do we deal with this massive problem, I don't know a lot of people that are like, I'm somebody who's able to impact this, and so I'm going to do something about it. And so I think that loss of one's self-belief or, confidence in oneself to move things in a significant way, I think has kind of, has an impact, because we need people just to step up and be like, hey, we're going to deal with this. And so if we dealt with the batteries in a responsible way, then I'd be like, I think electric is definitely the way to go for now until we find a better fuel source. But so that's kind of I think that we'll continue to consume. I think you'll see a huge increase in electric vehicles purchased over the next little bit. I think that car prices are going to go up, with all the back and forth on tariffs. It has to go up. I experienced it with COVID. People panic. In panic, they make kind of poor choices. And so I've seen a lot of people that are in negative equity situations where they needed a car, they had to buy it. It was overpriced because during COVID, a lot of car prices were beyond MSRP.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw a car that was sold over MSRP was a PT Cruiser. And I remember when they were new, I was selling Dodge. I remember people were like, oh my God, this car is awesome, and I'll pay over MSRP. And now you can buy them for like $1,200, $1,000, $1,000. So sometimes people's emotions get in the way, and it causes them to make choices that unfortunately have consequences down the line. And so I think that people may start to panic, and I would envision that we're going to see increasing in pricing of cars across both sides of the borders. Probably parts as well, I gather as well, because that's also being part of it. So we're going to start seeing some increases. How long, I don't know, but it's going to trickle down for sure.
That's definitely one of the trends for the next, who knows how long, but it's definitely something that's going to impact the automotive industry as a whole to begin with. What is your opinion on AI in the assessment industry? Are companies starting to integrate AI into the operations, and are they going to see benefits from using AI, or do you think it's something that's going to be held off for a couple of years? What's your opinion there?
I mean, on AI, I've been using it quite a bit myself, more and more, and I think that it's brilliant. I think that it helps, like it can streamline processes, simplify life for people.
Definitely.
So I think that it will, 100%. I think that it will. Do we have the resources to keep up with the demand of AI usage and the electricity required to, create a query? That's a whole other conversation. Our need for electricity, I think, is going way beyond what we have infrastructure-wise, and so I think AI, you'll 100%. Already every day. Just before this call, I used AI like 5 times, and it was like awesome. So I can't see why nobody, a person wouldn't. Maybe out of worry, but there's no way that it won't be used in a way that benefits the auto industry.
Definitely. Yeah. Have you heard of anything that any programs that would do the assessment for you through AI? So say you take a photo of it or do like a video of it, and it gives you an assessment, AI driven.
Like of a vehicle specifically,
of a vehicle, yeah.
I have not seen one. No, I think that's ultimately what we would look to create. Is we would create that AI for automotive, based on data, like reality. Because a lot of things I find are very generic, but each car, even if it's a mass-produced vehicle, has its own story. Right?
Yeah.
You buy a new car, they're sitting on the lot, assuming they're exact same trim model, they're exactly the same. But as soon as it leaves, it just, the story kind of changes. The family, what's happened to it, and so part of what we see is that collecting of all that data and storing it in one place is a key part to properly evaluating a vehicle. It's like all the components. Without it, I feel like it's still kind of generic and vague, but to get some precision into it, I could see AI being a huge tool with good data. So garbage in equals garbage out. I don't know if you've ever heard that term before, but if you're, I use AI, and without actual data, it's still kind of limited. So I think that as we kind of put together data, we'll be able to do some pretty magic stuff with it, pretty awesome stuff.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's going to be very beneficial towards every aspect of just life in general, as long as we don't abuse it. That's the biggest thing, is as long as we use it properly and don't abuse it. I think it's gonna impact our lives like crazy in a positive manner for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the automotive industry is highly competitive, especially when it comes to earning customer trust. How do you differentiate from, so you said you've moved out a little bit from dealing with consumers themselves, but I'm assuming when you were dealing with consumers, you were fighting against dealerships. I wouldn't say fighting, but you're basically fighting against dealerships. What are the steps that you take to ensure that your customers were feeling confident that their vehicle were in the right hands, getting evaluated properly?
So the one thing is that we've removed the financial incentive. In insurance, I think the term is moral hazard, where because there's a financial incentive, people can manipulate, like, oh, I need more money, so I'm going to push harder on this, right? I'm sure we've all experienced it when you deal with a person and it's like, you can tell they're just here for the money, right? Not everybody, but some people. And so we've removed that from the equation entirely, and that in itself is the deciding factor. Because I can look at you and say, Korson, you've hired me, you've just paid me, what do you need? And I can be like I can show you my books and show you there's nothing, absolutely nothing that can make me. And I think maybe the challenge with that is people don't realize that that's happening, that there is that agenda. But I'd like to think most people are aware that when you buy, not even cars, but like anything, people are trying to make money. Definitely. Everybody's trying to make money, right? And so that agenda, that has an impact on how we interact with each other. And so I remove that from the equation, and that in itself has created a huge relationship, to the point where people often would pay more for cars than they initially told me they wanted to pay. Because I was able to show them the value. I was able to show them, hey, yeah, this car is more than what you wanted, but it also has full service history. And it's obviously been maintained by like an obsessive compulsive, so yeah, it is more, but it's also significantly cleaner, meticulous, nicer, well maintained, timing belt's done, like they've done the job. This is the car you want to buy. And people
it's going to be worth it in the end.
Yeah. But because they weren't like resisting me, because I've removed that resistance to me, like does he care, because that's gone, they just trust me and they can see the facts, and it simplifies the whole process. Honestly, it's so much more enjoyable, and
that definitely makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
so
definitely.
that's the difference. That's how we've separated ourselves. The one disadvantage, I think, is by naming us the Fournier Auto Group. I think that I can see that will change. Like maybe it'd be independent vehicle examiners, a division of the Fournier Auto Group, but people instantly hear dealership when I say Fournier Auto Group. And I promise you, we're not a dealership. Nothing against dealerships, but we're not a dealership.
I wonder why they think dealership right away. Because
Fournier Auto Group. I mean, it kind of. Fournier Auto Group, if you look at all the auto groups, and so
yeah.
But you said something earlier as well about the industry. This is probably what causes me the most sleep. Is I don't have hate for anybody. I get people are trying to make livings. I get people are trying to do what they do. Some people are better than others. So I don't have an issue with people. There's no vindictiveness here. It really is just some people just want simplicity and ease, and that's what this is about. So, when we used to help people buy cars, I had a system that I would go through. It's like, okay, first let's figure out what your future is. Do you want to pull a trailer? Do you want to, we would take the time in their living room to talk about what matters to them,
Go through every detail.
Yeah. Do you have any negative equity? Do you know the consequence of carrying negative equity into a new car? Maybe it's better to wait a little bit, because in a negative equity situation, most people don't realize, in a total loss, insurance company doesn't care what you owe. They care what it's worth. And so I've seen many situations where a person's in a total loss, they're negative equity, and the bank is like, we need our money. Sorry, your car is gone. And it's even worse when it's not your fault. Those are the ones that I get a lot of. Driving down the road, somebody plows into the back of my car, wipes it out. Well, but I owe more than they're offering. I'm sorry, that's the consequence of being in negative equity. Is in the case of a total loss, you're going to have to come up with that money. You're probably just going to roll it into a new loan, but you're just kind of perpetuating this long-term trap, if you will.
Yeah.
So we're able to say to people, let's look at this. Where do you want to go? If you're buying a house, getting a car loan might not be the best thing for you, because then your debt service ratio goes down. So there's a lot of conversations that we can have with people that really have them think about, okay, where do I want to be? And that in itself is different than your traditional car sale. At least it is to me. People may be doing it. I can't speak for others, but
Yeah. No, you try to bring, it sounds like you try to bring knowledge to the industry. So you slow people down. You be like, wait, think about this for a second. Is this really what you want to do? Or there's this option here that might be a little bit better. Just take a moment and think about it. And they might not even know the other option. So at least you're taking the time to sit down and give them the whole layout, the whole plate of options that they have. So they can really think about it and get an opinion from a professional like you.
We really aim to bring an intention, like a focus. My experience of people buying cars is often they don't really know what they want. They know kind of like car, sedan, I like this, but there isn't like this precision of like, I want a 2020 Highlander hybrid platinum with, this, like there isn't that precision. Because once you have that precision, now when you shop, you can know, okay, this is a good deal or not. But most people are just feeling it, like, oh, do I like it? Do I feel it? Do I trust this person? We look to bring like just a kind of a stoic approach of these are the facts. They line up with what you've said, so this is a good choice. Mm-hmm. If you don't want it, that's fine. We'll go look at another one.
Especially with being, I'm a very indecisive person, unless I'm buying cars because it's going to be a Volkswagen. But if I go to buy, say, a pair of shoes, I'm very indecisive. I'll be like, okay, I like that pair, I like this pair, I like this pair. But if you're dealing with someone trying to buy a vehicle that's very indecisive, you're going to help them narrow down that option to the right option. And I think that helps out. That'll help. It does help a lot of people in a situation like that.
Yeah. The goal is to focus on value, because sometimes a dealer might be selling it at a higher price, but they provide something that other dealers don't. Like the person is kind. You could tell that they care. And that to me, I'll pay more money for that. Like I'll pay more money if I can have a person I trust and know that I can trust. And a lot of people are like, oh, I have a guy. Great. That's awesome. Our service, you don't need our service. Sorry, I keep giving my camera here. But
all good.
We just look, there's some people that have nobody. They have nobody. And they're just stuck. And we get people unstuck. We just give them what they need so they can get it complete. Car accidents. That's mostly it is right now, car accidents. Because car accidents, I'm assuming you've been in a car accident. Hopefully not, but it could be pretty intense.
Surprisingly, I haven't.
Good for you. Knock on wood. Yeah, hopefully not. But, I think dealing with car accidents for the last 12 years, it's really become clear on, there's a lot of assumptions made about what car insurance does. And it's not until you're in it do you realize that a little bit of research could have prevented a huge amount of heartache. And that's what I experienced. And unfortunately, when I come in, it's already too late. We're just trying to mitigate, the damages. But had they known prior, they could have saved themselves a huge amount of issue. And I get with insurance, people just see it as a monthly fee, like another expense. But when you need it, it's just, it would have been nice to be prepared. And I can give you examples. I don't know what your next question is, but I can give you real life examples, because I know talking about stuff vaguely is a bit challenging, but.
No, give some examples. I think it'll be great for the listeners to actually put some of these situations into context for themselves.
So there are a lot of things not covered by your car insurance. So, and every insurance company is different. There's a lot of legalese that I don't fully understand. I'm not going to pretend. So when I say this, I'm just sharing it from my experience of these are the things. So different insurance companies might cover different things. But right now, warranties, extended warranties are not covered by insurance companies. And I had a young guy, he just moved to Canada actually, and he got put together in the business office. I'm assuming you're familiar with that term. Are you familiar with that term, or?
Business office.
Or he got put together in the business office.
No, I'm not.
So put together
Explain,
means
please.
That he bought a lot of stuff. He bought like the life insurance, the warranties, the clear, like all this stuff, right? Put together
everything, yeah.
He bought it all. Like they put it together. Like he just all of it went together, right?
Okay,
and
I got you now.
The box is like the business office, the finance and insurance office, where people go after they've to sign the documents. And so he bought a warranty for this truck, and a month in, wiped out. Some guy plowed into him, rode off the truck. And insurance was like, that's fine, this is what the truck is worth. And I looked, and unfortunately he overpaid for his truck. And so there was a negative. And there was also the warranty. I was like, okay, well, when you bought the warranty, did you check to see if they have a prorated refund policy? Because most people don't know that some warranty companies will prorate a refund in the case of a total loss. Now, the dealer's probably not going to mention this because obviously there's a financial incentive to not. And so unfortunately his did not. So he just lost, it was $4,000 he paid for that warranty.
Wow.
So it just disappears entirely, just gone. And he got upset. He's like, oh, well, I have insurance. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of these situations where you're not covered. And I think most people see insurance as an expense. They don't think about the long-term. I'd heard this really great article about donating to your insurance company, donating your premiums. And people will pay their premium, but they might try and maybe mess with the documentation a bit. Like, oh, I don't use it for work. I use it for private use because it's cheaper. Or, my son is driving it even though he's not on it. People don't see a big deal. But in the case of an accident where somebody gets killed or hurt, insurance companies are looking to make sure, did you do your part? Did you actually abide by what you said you did? And if you didn't, they will breach your policy 100%.
So they're just smarter than the consumer, basically.
Again,
we're not being smart enough.
I think that I don't know that it's smarter than. I think it's more of just, they have a lot of people that do this intentionally every day. Their businesses, they're savvy, they have very smart accountants and lawyers and executives that can kind of manage this. They know what generates money. They're not, I wouldn't say they're necessarily smarter than us. They just have experience in this world that most people are oblivious that it exists.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, yeah.
So we look to shine a light on that, and ideally in our future we'd be able to educate people and be like, not all warranties are the same, not all cars are the same. There are differences. We're not here to dissuade from any one or the other. We're just simply here to say, as long as you know what you're buying, that's all we want. You've chosen this. Buying a Volkswagen is a perfect example. Or buying an old Mercedes. I love Mercedes, I love Volkswagen, so I got no hate for them. But they require a lot of maintenance as they get older. They're just money pits, right? And so definitely. As long as you know that going in, that works. But there's a workability to it, right? Whereas if you don't know it and it's like, oh, it's a great reliable car, and then all of a sudden you got to start spending money into it, it's kind of frustrating. And so our vision was like, look, if you don't want to have to pay for maintenance, buy a Toyota. Kind of boring to drive, kind of dead to drive. Like, we have a 2020 Highlander, pretty boring to drive. Beautiful truck, but kind of boring. I love my Volkswagen, but it tends to require money. It's feeding of money on a regular basis. I know that. I'm okay with it. And so that's all we're here to say, is just be aware of the situation you're putting yourself into, so that when it does go sideways, if it goes sideways, at least you chose it.
That's awesome. No,
so
I love how you're just trying to give knowledge to the consumer. That's one of the biggest things, especially with the insurance industry. No one really knows much about it. Yeah. And if you can bring that knowledge out and to kind of shine a light on the stuff that they're missing, that's huge for the consumer.
I have another type of insurance loss that people know about it, but they don't know what it is, and so I can name it. I can distinguish it. It's called accelerated depreciation. Are you familiar with that term?
No, I'm not. I've never heard of it.
And so so accelerated depreciation is, I like to use examples. So we have a 2020 Highlander, brand new, I think it was about $58,000, hybrid. Let's say tomorrow I'm driving down, somebody rear-ends me, and it costs $25,000 to fix it. They're still going to fix it because economically it makes sense. But once it's fixed, it's not worth less, it's worth less. It loses value because now you've got this vehicle with a $20,000 declaration on it. Yeah. And I stumbled upon this. This is what actually got me into litigation. I was in a networking meeting and a lawyer came to me and said, can you do an appraisal? And I'd never written a report, but I was like, I'm appraising cars, so I just need to format it and stuff. And he explained to me about accelerated depreciation, about guys with Porsches and BMWs, their car gets smashed, not their fault, and so not only do they sue for like injuries and all that stuff, but they also sue for the lost value. Mm-hmm. And when he said this, I was like, oh, that makes total sense. That like if you didn't cause the accident and your car loses the value as a result of it, you should get compensated for it. And so I created a system that allowed everybody to access this, mostly people that had everyday cars. Because my thought was, well, what about the guy with the brand new Honda CR-V? Yeah. Like, I'm not talking expensive cars here, but to lose $2,000 or $3,000 is a big deal to me.
For some people.
It's a big deal to a lot of people. So what about those people? And so I actually, over the last decade, was very effective. I have numerous published decisions in multiple levels of courts in BC, in the Civil Resolution Tribunal, where we were successful at helping people recoup this cost in a cost-effective way, to the point where we were able to remove the lawyers from it, and we're able to get people compensated for even our fee. So not only did they win, but they also got paid for our service. So it was actually,
awesome.
Here's the money, here's the service, and here's the process. And then I established a number of lawyers as it evolved, because it's evolved. The government has, overnight, will change legislation and it will shut off my business. In 2021, I lost 95% of my business as a result of a change that the government made.
Wow.
And because I was becoming very effective at getting people this accelerated depreciation, I don't think that I'm the only one, but I would like to believe that I actually was a key contributor to this. They amended our Insurance Act to say that accelerated depreciation was no longer a compensable heading of damage, meaning when you sign your insurance, you're agreeing that you can no longer sue for this. You can no longer do anything with it. You just agreed to it when you signed it. And 95% of my business disappeared as a result of that change. Fair enough. I was an intervener for the BC Utilities Commission, and unfortunately it wasn't the right venue to challenge this change. I was able to get some key information from the British Columbia insurer, ICBC. And what I found out is that approximately 80,000 British Columbians have open accelerated depreciation claims on their vehicles. The average claim is $3,400, and about 200 people did anything with it.
Wow, that's crazy.
And so there are flaws in kind of their, I have some issues with their quantification of that 80,000, because their opinion is that when a car has been damaged once, any subsequent damages have no
effect.
Damages. And again,
basically.
I have to be responsible. This isn't necessarily the view of ICBC. This is just the conversations I've had with adjusters and different people and lawyers throughout the years. So again, I don't think that it's necessarily their direct, position on it. I can't say that, but they had said that, like when a car has been damaged once, any subsequent accident. So you could have a car that has a $2,000 accident and the next one's 50. The 50 made no difference. It was the 2,000 that impacted the value. Okay. You tell me, if you were buying a car and you saw one with a 2K and the 50K, which one bothers you the most? Which one would worry you the most?
Probably the 50K, yeah.
The 50, yeah, or the 20 or the 15 or whatever. So,
yeah.
So their 80,000 removes any cars that have had previous accident histories. So that 80,000 number they gave us was only cars that had never had a significant or had never had a previous accident. And I've heard anecdotally, I think 34% of cars have some sort of declaration. So that 80,000 may have been more like 100,000. Or
that's crazy.
And this is rolling ongoingly. So every day there's 900 accidents in the province. And so this is British Columbians' equity that gets removed as a result of these accidents. And I watched the media as this was happening, and I've been verbal about this. I've been on CBC Marketplace and CBC a number of times, and it's interesting listening to people. It's like they assume that it's like the people that have a lot of money. And it's like, well, I don't know about you, but a Honda Civic is not the most. It's a $30,000 car, $25,000. That car will be impacted by accelerated depreciation. Even your $10,000 minivan, if it has no accidents, then all of a sudden somebody plows into it and it's got a a 5K hit on it, you just lost some money. So this isn't just a rich person thing. This is like our hard money just disappears. So so the accelerated depreciation was the other one. And each province and state handles it differently. In the US, actually, if you cause your own accident, they'll actually pay you out for your accelerated depreciation.
Wow, that's crazy. So you said that BC took over and isn't letting you do that now, or you kind of found another way around it?
I have not. No, there's no way that I'm aware. Actually, where we're at right now is we would need somebody to challenge the constitutionality of that legislation change, and they would be paying for all of it. So you're paying $400 or $500 an hour. Like, I'm kind of waiting for somebody with a McLaren or somebody that has a very expensive car that has the money, isn't worried about the expense of it, that's willing to challenge it. But that's the only way that I can see that this will change is if somebody comes back and said, hey, this was unconstitutional, this should have never happened, and then they escalate it all the way to the top. So it's a big undertaking.
And what's the reason that they wouldn't want their, like BC wouldn't want their people obviously getting the money they deserve? Or does it come out of the government funds?
I think it's a sustainability thing. I think that it represents such a significant amount of money. I mean, think about it. Every time there's an accident, you now have to add a little bit for that extra value. One car at a time, not a big deal, but there's 900 accidents a day in the province, just in British Columbia. I'm sure Ontario's maybe double that, maybe
Probably
triple
more,
it, right?
yeah.
But you just think every single one of those cars that have been smashed has lost some value, and so now you should theoretically pay that out. And so it's just it's a massive expense. And I get they're trying to make insurance affordable, but so I'm not, so I've just kind of accepted. I pivoted in my business and do the total loss stuff. So and you can still make these claims. Actually, in Ontario, I think you can make accelerated depreciation claims.
Well, I'm going to keep that in mind next time I hear of someone that had some issues. That's awesome. I didn't know that. Thank you for the information.
No worries.
So we'll move on to kind of more of the goals for Fournier Group. Where do you want to be in 6 to 12 months from now? We kind of spoke a little bit about the future and the goals that you were looking for. Are you going to venture into further paths? We kind of touched on that. And how are you going to grow the company?
So the idea is to automate my current processes. It's quite manual at this moment. And then expand the IVE, so relaunch the IVE offering and start promoting it with the public. And I've done this a couple of years ago where I tested it, and the response was phenomenal. Hey, come and talk about cars. Come look for cars. Help me search. Do car data stuff. We'll pay you. You'd be surprised how many people are stoked about that. I mean, some people just do it for free, for fun, right? So the idea is to expand that, and then as we expand and I remove myself more from the day-to-day, focus on the launching of the platform and the automation of the system. That's the plan in the next 6 to 8 months. And
That's amazing. So when you said promote to the public, does that mean more kind of running more the ad side of thing and kind of SEO, just get your name out there kind of more so people know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I mean, doing this, so this is, as I mentioned, my first time doing an interview like this, so doing more stuff like this, and but also launching the IV offering. So people that are interested in becoming trained in an IV, we see a certification, like building a program where the idea is to elevate, and so we would have people trained, and so as we add people, create a system, train them, and just add more of those people throughout Canada. And I could do that. We could start that tomorrow if I wanted to, actually.
That's awesome. That's exciting. Yeah. Are you planning, is that kind of that's something you're kind of going to be working on in 6 to 8 months?
Yes.
Is getting that training going and get people around Canada to get established with Fournier? That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges Pardon?
Sorry, go ahead.
What are some of the challenges that you're facing, and what do you see are the most pressing setbacks and pain points? Obviously, one of the biggest ones for you would be that the government's kind of slowly creeping up behind you. But what are some of the other setbacks and pain points that you're seeing and addressing at the moment?
Time is probably the biggest issue. Like I can see what each step requires, and it requires focus and intention. And as I mentioned, 3 businesses, 2 kids. My time is spread very thin, and so I'm able to move things but a very slowly pace so ideally you would have somebody like a COO, somebody that I could rely on that shares a passion and a commitment to serving the world, that would come in and help me with just getting stuff done, start building these systems, because I could build a lot of these systems. The thing is that I have to learn, and that's the part that is kind of challenging, is I'm choosing my battles, and so it's really a time. That's all it is freeing myself up to focus. That's the biggest challenge right now. And I've been doing that already over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I've been definitely freeing up my time to just focus and enjoy a little bit more of play. Be sure about these Hot Wheels. And so having fun and going to car shows. I could actually see that'll be the next thing is I have a 110 scale Land Rover Defender RC that's a legit rock crawler, front and rear axle lockers.
That's awesome.
They're about $2,000 to buy them. And it brings so much joy to people when my wife and kids and I walk around with it. It's actually, we call it our family dog because we don't have a dog. and it's just this really cool Land Rover Defender with lights, and people love it. And so I'm going to go to some car shows. I have the 29 Buick, and just go and hang out and talk to people about cars and introduce myself. And I'm excited about that. I think that'll be a very effective way for us. Yeah.
And just a good way to network as well, to get your name out. And if a car show is honestly the best spot to find someone that has exclusive knowledge on one specific brand or vehicle itself, because a lot of people like us, we pick our Volkswagens and we stick to our Volkswagens, where anyone else in the automotive industry does the exact same thing. They pick one vehicle and they usually stick with it. So if you're looking for experts in the industry, that's the best way to find them.
And those people are pretty easy to find, because if you go to a car show and you ask them about their car and they open the hood and they start telling you about how they've remapped it and I put this turbo and I replaced the exhaust and I rebuilt the clutch, and these are the people that, okay, you're the person, that we want to work
Definitely.
with. So we're looking for those people. So I guess if you have viewers that are passionate about cars, please contact me, because we want to expand this and just give people a way to share their, kind of like when you're a kid, right? You just want to share about stuff. But I feel like money just kind of gets in the way of it. Like we kind of compromise our childlike, wonder and excitement. And so we're getting back to that. It's like if people want to play and talk about cars and share and learn and are okay with saying I don't know, then they're definitely somebody that I'd like to talk to.
And you're almost building a community as one, is what you're trying to do. You're bringing everyone together as a community.
That's the plan. There's a lot dividing us these days. There's a lot dividing us. And what I absolutely love, and my wife loves it, is you'll be driving, like I'm driving down the road in my Mark IV GLI. You get a stoplight and somebody rolls down the window and they're like, "Tell what is that?" "Oh, 24 valve VR6 and 3-inch new speed exhaust." And there's just this like connection that the automotive industry brings. And I think that's also why I love it. And so if we can help people bring the community together and share their passion, share their car with, "Hey, check this out," or learn. I mean, we haven't even discussed all of the features that our platform would have, but that's the goal. So
that's awesome. No, that's definitely one of the biggest things. You have forums for like you can go online, you can find VW Vortex forums, you can find Honda forums, but there's not one that connects them all together. So say you have one like then this might be it. This will be it.
This is
coming here in the future.
Yeah,
it is for sure.
I mean, imagine instead of you having to search around, you have somebody like you and I. Like you probably have favorited of all these websites. Well, now somebody contacts you. They don't need to know it. You know it. Okay, hey, what about this and what about that? And it becomes simple. There's a toolbox. I love tools. I feel like tools are the most important thing in any garage, in any life, and so we're a toolbox that gives people the tools they need to deal with whatever they're dealing with.
No, that's great. Especially, so when I was building my VR, my Mark IV, I'll go down a little story here. So I was 16 when I bought the car, and couldn't drive yet. I only had my G1. I didn't even have my G1 license, but I was like, I need a car. I want a Mark IV, and I want it with the VR6. So I went, bought the VR6. I had it for 3 months, just drove down the driveway, down the road, turned around, came back in the driveway, whatever. Pulled it apart, had no idea how to work on cars. So my dad has a shop. I grew up on a farm and just kind of tinkered with four-wheelers and whatever else, pulling stuff apart, but never worked on I did the odd thing on vehicles, but never pulled an engine or anything. But I was like, I want to turbo this because I want to make it go fast. And so 3 months after buying it, ripped it apart, had it apart within the first month. But the only reason I knew how to pull that apart was because I was speaking to another gentleman that has built many of VR6s, and that was the only reason I knew the knowledge on how to do this.
Wow.
And then same with what needed to order, so I had to do a head spacer, and then I had to redo the timing, and I had to make sure that all the hash marking on the cylinders was good, and the pistons all looked good. And I had no knowledge on how to do this, so I'm just lucky I had people there for me throughout the whole process to help me get this car finished up. And it actually ended up taking me 5 years to get the turbo kit figured out. So that was last year. I got it finished up, had it running down the road, and I had it running for maybe 2 weeks, all fresh. It was running good. I was super happy. And then I took it to work and decided to take one of my co-workers out for a drive, and during lunch. And on the way back, I'm driving. I'm just pulling into the parking lot at work, and all of a sudden it dies on me. And we roll into the parking lot. I pull over. I get out, try to crank it, nothing. I'm like, what is going on? Or it would just crank. That's all that would happen. It would just crank. It wouldn't even try to fire. And I'm like, it sounds weird. And I'm like, did I just blow it up? He's like, no, I don't think so. So we kind of tinkered around at the end of the day to try to get it going. Couldn't get it going. So I trailered it home, pulled it apart again, and then realized that there was one bolt that I didn't lock tight. And it's for the intermediate gear, the timing. It came loose, and the two gears, the keyways came apart, and I screwed the whole engine apart. But I'm just glad that I had the resources there to, number one, finish that project and get to know all the information I had to rebuild it the second time and do it properly. And I think that's what your community is going to help with a lot.
Yeah. And kudos to you for, like, I've never done what you're talking about. Like, I've always wanted to, but, good for you, because it's a big undertaking to rip an engine, like, it's a lot. Modify it, add a turbo. So, good for you. It's awesome. Yeah.
No, it was a great project. I'm a big welder too. I love welding, but just having someone there that knew some knowledge about what I was doing and giving me a hand throughout the whole process, that was the biggest thing. Because I had his number. I just texted him to me like, hey, what do I do here? And he's like, well, you can do this or you can try this. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. And then it was just the best way to learn, was actually getting my hands on and doing it. But totally. If I didn't have someone in my back pocket like that giving me a hand with anything, I wouldn't be in the situation right now. I probably wouldn't be invested into automotive talking to you today. So that's kind of where my passion for automotive grew, and especially with upcoming youngsters that are going to be in the automotive industry, if you have a community like that they can kind of figure out, what car should I buy when I'm 16 just coming out of high school, this is the best way to figure it out, because they'll get people with real knowledge.
I've actually been offered to create a course for kids in high school to buy their first car. And I thought about it. I was like, that would have been awesome. Can you imagine that at 14? Somebody's like, okay, great. In the next couple of years, you're going to buy a car. It's going to involve credit and budgeting and figuring it out. And I don't know if you read I posted my origin story, the first car that I bought.
I did read that. I was going to ask you to share that on here.
And so I can say I know we're at a while. I'd happy to share it if you'd like. And
go right ahead. If you're in no rush, we're a little over the time limit, but
I'm good. So my first car that I had financed. So it was a big deal because I had cars before that my parents had bought for us, but this was like my first car. My first car I was financing, and so I was excited about it. And I think I had I didn't do the intention work that we were talking about. I was just like, I had money, I knew what I had to spend, I wanted a car. So I went to a dealer. It was in Winfield, British Columbia, and I had found this, I can't remember, I think it was a 92 or 93 Buick Regal GS Coupe. And it's a two-door coupe, full digital dash. It was just a neat car. I think it had the 3 liter, 3.8 liter. But I was excited buying this car. It was like, I like it. And as I was looking at it, I was sitting inside, and there was I looked at the dash, and I'm like, oh, there's a digit missing. It's odd. Like there's only, instead of having like the 100, it had like 5 digits instead of the 6 or something. There was something missing, and I asked the salesperson, and she was like, oh yeah, that's just this car, the digital dash. I'm like, okay, great. In hindsight, that was the first red flag. But my emotions had taken over at this point. I was close. I was getting ready to buy it, and so I bought it, and I bought a warranty. And about 2 weeks in, I was like, how have I driven 20,000 kilometers in like 2 weeks? It didn't make sense. And that's when on the old digital dashes, they had you could change it from miles to kilometers. And so I changed it into the miles, and it showed up at like 160,000 miles or some number like that. It was like, I was like, the 2 in front of the 1 had burnt out. So it wasn't 146,000, it was 214,000 kilometers. Oh. And that's when I started to do my research. That's when I think I started researching it, and that's when the engine started to make a knock, like a solid knock. And then I did a car proof at the time. It was car proof, and found out the car had been in multiple big accidents. And I never asked the question. And so, and so then the engine went, but because the mileage was wrong, the warranty I purchased was not actually available for my car. So the warranty got voided. And
That's awful.
the company that I was dealing with, we don't have to get into names, but I ended up picketing outside of their dealership, and they ended up trading me this 1986 Jeep Grand Wagoneer with a carbureted 360, 5.9 liter. And awesome truck, kicked my butt in gas. Like I
bet.
But I mean,
I
now
bet.
I had this car loan with this vehicle that was worth nothing, and it just kind of had this trickle down effect. And I just wish that I would have pulled my head out of my butt a little bit and slowed down and looked. And so that's kind of the beginning point of what we're looking to do, is that sometimes people make choices hastily, and fair enough if you're okay with that. Just sometimes people want to know what they don't know, and we're here to help with that. So that was the inspiration ultimately behind the company. Yeah.
That's a great story. Just to show
It wasn't
exactly
great living it.
where you're coming. No, I bet. But just to show exactly kind of your inspiration behind the company to begin with, and it's like that just resonates with this day and age, with how many, like, especially buying used vehicles, even on Marketplace. You on Marketplace, you find a car where someone's looking for a vehicle, and then it's like, oh, 2010 Honda Civic with 180,000 kilometers. It's like, okay, it looks good, it's clean from the photos, but if you're not someone that knew anything about vehicles, you could go look at it and there could be no rust on it. But if you're an actual experienced automotive professional, you go and you see that there's Bondo all over the car, and they just scrubbed over it with paint to make it look like there's no rust. Like, that's the difference between, like, especially with scammers these days, it's nice to have a professional there guiding you through the process of buying a vehicle, because everyone just looks for a way to make money. It doesn't matter what they have to do to get there, they just want to make money. And it's kind of sad that that's the way we're living these days, but that's where you come in play and help people find the right car for what they're looking for.
Yeah, and you know, and to go back to what you said, like I deal with a lot of interesting situations, a lot of interesting scenarios. You can imagine there's like been over 1,000 of them since I've started this, of like different situations. And one thing I always like to do is give people the benefit of the doubt, and because mostly people come to me like, I got screwed and this person took advantage of me, and I always try and play the devil's advocate. It's like, look, maybe it was more of a little more innocent. Not to say that it wasn't the wrong information, but maybe it wasn't vindictive. Maybe it wasn't intentionally trying to screw you. And for me, that gives me some peace in that not everybody's out to screw everybody. I think it's on a person to do their due diligence. I think that that's ultimately the thing, because you can blame somebody, but once that car is yours, it's in your name, and the situation's done, there's no going back. You can complain about it all you like, be angry about it all you like, it's too late. So I prefer preventative. So if somebody tells me something, I've learned I kind of need to see it in writing. It's not personal, but it's happened enough where people say something and they forgot they said it, or I never said it. It's like, I need it in writing. And litigation, I think, has also reinforced that. Like you can read published decisions for court cases online. There's a website called Canley. Are you familiar with this?
No, I've never looked into this.
So Canley, Canlii. And so every time a person goes to court throughout Canada, the decision, if it's published, so if it goes to trial and the judge gives a decision as published, it gets published there. So I read these published decisions all the time. I'm on a mailing list. I love it. I'm a nerd. That's fine. But you see people buying cars and they didn't do the due diligence, and then they're trying to now sue the other person, but they didn't preserve their evidence. Like, there was one I read actually about a woman had bought a truck, and a day later she went to a shop and they're like, you need brakes. And instead of like going back to the place she bought it from, she got them to fix it and destroyed all the evidence. All the rotors, the pads, whatever they did, it just disappeared. And so when she went to sue, they're like, well, you didn't give them a chance to see it. You didn't capture the brakes. Maybe the mechanic was taking advantage of your lack of knowledge. And so it's clear that to be effective in like holding people accountable, you have to be good at like, these are the facts, and know the difference between a fact and an opinion. Most people kind of think their opinion is a fact, but it's like, there's a difference between fact and opinion. And so the fact is, the rotors had, X number of width left in them, or so I guess the reason I'm saying this, I actually don't remember why I'm saying this now. I got a little distracted there. But I think my point, the published
court
decision.
cases you were talking about, that.
Yeah. If you like to read, they're interesting because you can read on different scenarios and how people were effective and how they weren't effective. And ultimately, we look to help set people up so they can be effective. And also, we help the other side as well. Like, we're not all just because I get the people that work at dealerships in the industry, they're human beings. They're living lives, they have families, they're dealing with stresses, their industry is altering all the time. So I have no issue. It's like, how can I support both sides? And sometimes we remove the games that the consumers play. Like, I've experienced this with insurance, and that somebody comes to me and you can tell that they're pissed off. And when emotion gets involved, people tend to do things illogically. But what I've experienced is people come to me and they're like, hey, I think my car is worth this. It's just an insurance company. Just adjust it. No, I will not. My integrity actually matters to me. And we offer a service even where we'll look at a file and be like, the insurance company's fair. And some people don't like that. Or they're searching for a number, and we're like, we can't help you. So we also do our best to help protect the industry from both sides, because it goes both ways. The people that have sold the car that is garbage, it wasn't a dealer that drove that thing. A dealer did not maintain it and smash it, and it was a person. So there's two sides of everything that I see, and so our goal is also to assist the industry and maybe making it easier. Maybe they can make more money. I think that if you sell a $50,000 car, you should be able to make some money. It's a lot of money, a lot of investment. I think that a dealer should be able to make thousands of dollars on that because they've invested hugely. I just don't know that they are able to freely say, hey, I want to make $4,000 on this car. That's what we believe. I feel like that approach works for me, but yeah.
Oh, that's another side of dealerships that could be up for discussion that we could spend a lot of time talking about.
Yeah.
But so back to kind of your journey in the automotive space, what are some of the most important lessons that you've learned, and what advice would you give to entrepreneurs entering the space right now?
Follow passion. Like, definitely follow passion. Following money has never led me down a good path, so follow passion. And I think that the money will flow abundantly. If it's like a real passion and excitement, yeah. And if you can't find a system that works, make your own. Like, create it from nothing. That's what I did.
That's what you've done, yeah. No,
yeah.
That's amazing. And last question I have for you is, if you can go back to when you started Fournier Auto Group, what advice would you give yourself?
Trust myself. Be kind to myself. Be kind to myself. Yeah.
I think that's something a lot of us need to work on is to trust ourselves, number one, and also be kind to ourselves, like you said, because a lot of us are really hard on ourselves for not achieving things that we think we can. But at the end of the day, we're here, we're living, and we have opportunity to do whatever we want in life. So why not take it a little easy and just be happy that we're here every single day.
Totally.
That's amazing. I'm out of questions for you. If there's anything that you want to chat further about, we can chat.
Yeah,
but,
no, I think I'm good. This has been fantastic. I've enjoyed the conversation, and yeah.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. You have crazy amount of experience in the industry, and so many you've great insights that, especially in the insurance side, that a lot of people don't know about. So I really hope that the listeners find these insights helpful. Maybe they're in a situation they can reach out to you to get some help, and I think you're going to help a lot of people in this space. So thank you so much. I hope to have you on again soon, and we'll have to talk more Volkswagen.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.